It sounds fine on the stream. We still sound choppy though.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whenever and wherever you're watching or listening. This is the Awesemo NHL DFS Strategy Show, and I'm your host, Michael Clifford, aka Slim Cliffy. Joining me for the next hour to talk about the cup contenders that are the Toronto Maple Leafs, our single entry assassin, Mr. Joshua Harris. Josh, how you doing today, buddy?
Frauds are the Leafs. Just fraudulent. They look like they didn't just lose yesterday. They looked awful. Like, it's fine if you lose the game like 5-1, like you run into a hot goaltender or something, but whoo, baby, did they look bad, which is fine. They'll still make the playoffs and get swept. And we'll be swimming in the tears of Leafs fans, but it'll be glorious.
Leafs didn't look very good last night. Lost to the Sabres 5-1. Wasn't one of those games either where, they got goalied or something like that. Like, the Sabres actually looked pretty good. I don't know if the Sabres look good or the Leafs look bad, or maybe a little bit of both.
A little combo.
Yeah. I was actually talking to my brother about Toronto. Here's the thing is, we talked about it on the show. The Eastern Conference is very, very top heavy this year. Florida, Tampa Bay, Boston, Carolina, Washington, Pittsburgh. These are all elite teams. I guess maybe Washington's fallen off a little, but 5 or 6 elite teams. You can't have a weak blue line or weak goaltending or something like that in the Eastern Conference. You're going to get blown up. It'll be interesting to see what the Leafs do as the trade deadline approaches. I think it's not that far away. I think it's 2 weeks away at this point. So
they may reacquire Nick Foligno to answer all the problems.
Yeah, I was actually reading an article earlier today about how he was seemingly resurging. So yeah, maybe they're going to part with another round pick at the deadline for him. But no, we're not here just to slam the Leafs all show, though. If they want to pay me to do that for an hour, I most certainly will. We are here to talk about NHL DFS, and we are brought to you by Yahoo Fantasy. They've been our sponsor this entire season. They've been very, very good to us. If you're new here, if you're new to DFS, especially if you're a first-time user over on Yahoo, there is special giveaways, a little bit of money you can get from them if you've never played on Yahoo before. So nothing wrong with a little bit of free money. Stick around for that a little bit later on. Should shout out Yellowbird Marketing. He was DM me last night. Finished second in the 20 max daily dollar last night for a $250 hit. Very nice night there. I went single entry last night. I didn't do well. I game stacked the Sabres and the Leafs. I was kind of looking good at one point, with Okposo and Middlestat. I stacked Buffalo 2 at Toronto 1. Obviously, the Toronto top line didn't really do anything. So I busted. How'd you do?
Yeah, my dogs are offended at this Leafs performance. You're talking about the Leafs. They're all offended right now. Don't blame them. But, I also had some Leafs. My initial lineup, I was fading Leafs, and I don't know what I'm doing. Like, why am I fading Leafs? Like, this is the Buffalo Sabres. But, like, the lineup that I had without the Leafs wouldn't have done anything anyway. So, it was a good night to check out a little early, get some rest. They're still offended. And, got re-energized for today's game, set some golf lineups, probably are dead as we're talking about it. But, that's the game we play.
It is the game we play. Let's hope we can do a little bit better tonight than we did last night. If everybody in the chat, if you could, please throw us a thumbs up. Those likes really help us look good for our bosses. The subscriptions look even better for us. So click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Click the bell to get those notifications whenever we do go live. PGA obviously in full swing. NBA still in full swing. We got NHL shows, lots going on here at Awesemo. So be sure to click that bell to get alerts whenever any of our shows do go live. Free premium tools and data up on the site today. We have NBA and NHL player projections up on the site. So whether you're playing a little bit of puck or a little bit of basketball, we have some projections up on the site for everybody to go view. We're also giving away a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum through our podcast. Head on over to the Awesemo podcast channel and just leave a 5-star review with your Twitter handle or Awesemo subscriber username, and you can win a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. So head on over there and do that. We also have a newish show here at Awesemo called Locks Before Lock. It's our NBA betting prop show. So if you're in a state where you can bet, or you're just up here in Canada, you want to bet some NBA props, 30 minutes before the deeper dive every day is our Locks Before Lock. And for our puck heads out there, check out Odd Shopper, because we have added player props for NHL over on Odd Shopper. So Odd Shopper is a great little tool for sports bettors to try to shop for the best line that you can. And we have added NHL player props. So head on over to oddshopper.com and see what we're all about as far as NHL player prop shopping goes. All right, Josh, we've got a 9-game slate ahead of us. So let's get right to this. We've got the Pittsburgh Penguins 2.7 implied total going into Tampa Bay. The Tampa Bay Lightning have a 3.4 implied goal total. Expecting Tristan Jarry against Andrei Vasilevsky in net. I suppose the two lineup notes: one, Jeff Carter's back down on the third line with Evan Rodriguez. He had been playing at times with Evgeny Malkin over the last month. Doesn't look like it's going to be the case tonight. On the Tampa Bay side, Matthew Joseph has jumped up to the second line, where he had played a lot with Steven Stamkos. Anthony Cirelli moved down to the third line. That was a change that happened last game. Suspect it'll hold up through this game, but I guess we'll see. Probably things of interest on both sides here, but at least on DraftKings, the Penguins are the most expensive stack on the entire slate here tonight. Penguins won going into Tampa Bay. How do you feel about that matchup? Ownership, just what do you think about this game?
Man, I was doing some work on that stat trick, looking at the Penguins lines, and their top line, Crosby, Gensel, Russ, they have good numbers. They're just not worthy of 22,000 on DraftKings against the Tampa Bay Lightning good. And you look at their sample with Russ there compared to Evan Rodriguez when Russ was hurt. Like, their numbers with Evan Rodriguez are much better than they are with Brian Russ, at least offensively. Come to your own conclusions there. Maybe Russ should play with Malkin, but I'm not the coach. That being said, I don't think I'm gonna have much of what are they, 22,000 plus Penguins going into Tampa. And you look at their sample, like 40 or 54% Corsi for, 55% of the scoring chances, something like that, in a 353-minute sample. It's good, but it's not worthy of their price on the road. It kind of makes me want to play Tampa 1 here. They have a 3.4 total at home, and they're getting almost no ownership. This is the front end of back-to-back for both these teams, so I know Yari's confirmed, which I would just make sure Vasilevsky is in that. I don't know. That just popped into my head, but I'd be more interested in Tampa 1 here than Pitt 1. I don't know if I'm going to get to them in 1-3, because there is a lot of massive totals, a lot of massive favorites that are underpriced on this slate. But I think if you're MMEing, like, getting in Tampa 1 here at 2-3%, whatever they are, against a Pitt 1 that's a bit leaky, Yari, who is the goalie in that conference, all-star in that conference over Igor, which is don't get me started. I'm not a huge believer in Yari, so I think a nice contrarian option in GPP tonight would be Tampa 1.
Yeah, I'm with you on Tampa 1. I was looking at some of their numbers. Like, Nikita Kucherov has been in and out of the lineup with injuries this year, but in the time that they have together, they're generating 39 scoring chances per 60 minutes of 5-on-5. Like, that is just like stupendous, like, scoring chance generation. Like, the top teams in hockey will generate 30, as a team as a whole. Like, 39 is just, outrageous. It's kind of why I agree with you. I do like Tampa 1 here tonight. I think, single entry 3 max, I think they're definitely in consideration. They're in strong consideration for me in my 20 max. Like, usually I have 2 or 3 like core stacks that I'll build around on big slates like this, and they're near the top of the list for 4 or 5 stacks that I'm considering, even in a somewhat tough matchup going into Pittsburgh 1. Like, maybe Pittsburgh can kind of gets up for this game against another cup contender or something like that. We have talked about teams kind of letting off the gas because there's nothing to play for in the Eastern Conference. So I do like Tampa 1 here. I just can't get on board with Pittsburgh 1 at that price going into Tampa Bay. Like, yeah, things can happen. We saw, just last night, St. Louis 1 went into, New York, and not saying that Tampa Bay is the Rangers, but, Igor Shesterkin let up a few goals. St. Louis top line did well. It can happen. It's just, Tampa top to bottom is arguably the deepest team in hockey, one of the best defensive teams in hockey. The penalty kill is excellent. Like, it would have to take in 1 to 3. I'm out on Pittsburgh. 20 max, I think you can consider them, but I'd rather just play the home team at Tampa Bay at 2%. You know what I mean? 2 to 3%. So Tampa 1 for me in this game. On the blue line, Tampa's basically been playing their top 4D like 20 minutes, and then everybody else very sparingly. So if you want, and by the top 4D, I don't mean like Ruda sometimes gets top line minutes with Hedman, but not anymore. It's Hedman, Sergachev, McDonough, and Chernak. So it would definitely be one of those 4 guys that I would use. McDonough at 3,200 seems very reasonable on DraftKings. Not sure there's anything on the Pittsburgh side that I want to use. What about defensemen?
Yeah, I'm out on Pittsburgh. See, these 4 Tampa guys are interesting to me because they're all kind of at different price points. Like Chernak, if you need like a deep punt under 3K is fine. McDonough's 3,200. He's fine. If you're in the mid-range, Sergachev is good at, 4,600. And then if you're correlating, I'm paying up. Victor Hedman is good as well. So based on your build, I think all 4 of those guys are playable.
Yeah. One thing I'll say is like top pairs tend to play with top lines more. So Sergachev moving to that top pair actually kind of changes things because he would ostensibly get more ice time with Nikita Kucherov than if he was playing on a second pair. So yeah, don't mind him in the mid-range. Let's get to this next game. Ottawa, 2.3 implied goal total going into Florida. The Panthers have a 4.4 implied goal total. Oh yeah. It's a dude. Josh Norris returning for Ottawa. He's been out for a little over a month. I forget what the injury was, but he's been out for about 5 weeks now. He's coming back. He's on the top line with Brady Tkachuk and Zach Sanford. On the Florida side, they moved Mason Marchment to the top line with Barkov and Verhaeghe. Seems like that's going to be their shutdown line going into Norris and Tkachuk. Formenton, Stutzla, Brown down on the second line for Ottawa. I know you're an Alex Formenton guy. They get that Florida 2 matchup here tonight. I don't know how much Sens we're getting to. I imagine we're going to be getting to a fair bit of Panthers. What do you think here, Josh?
Yeah, I feel like I'm just cranking a broken record here. Florida 2, Florida 2, Florida 2. Like every slate, they're under-owned, and it's the line that I want to play. Like, it doesn't matter to me that Sam Bennett is on the second power play unit. He's underpriced tonight, and he shoots the puck at 5-on-5. That's what I want. And if you want the power play correlation, you got Huberdeau and Duclair there. They're coming in at reasonable ownership, like 6-7%. Even if it comes up to close to 10, I'm still fine with them. Like, yeah, Alex Formenton's my boy, but like, don't play no defense. So like, I'm in on Florida 2 here tonight. You want to go to Florida 1? I think that's fine. Like Barkov or Hagee together have been excellent for 2 seasons now. Mason Marchment's had an excellent season. Yeah, he's shooting like 9,000%, but being up with Barkov can't hurt. You know what I mean? So I'm fine with Florida 1. I'm more in on Florida 2. Again, you want to go to Florida 3, like Vetrano being there with Marchment instead of Marchment is kind of similar. Like Vetrano's more of a shooter, I think. So like, which is good because, Lundell's like, you've seen some of these passes he's making. He's a very good playmaker. So I think that benefits Vetrano, and he's super cheap. So getting the Florida 3, I think, is fine. It does worry me that they're going to be higher owned projected than Florida 2 right now. I think maybe that changes during the day, but like, I'm not sure I want to play a 7% third line on a 9-game slate, but I think you can get to them. On the Ottawa side, like, I wish Sanford wasn't on the top line. I would literally take anyone else. And that's what's keeping me off them. Like, maybe if you want to do like a Tkachuk, Norris, Chabot 3-man and MME, just because like Florida is a high event team. They take a fair bit of penalties. Bob has, ADHD doesn't take his Ritalin or whatever. He could have, be a little leaky, but Sanford on the top line is just, it's like, like just put even like Tyler Ennis up there. I would have been happy with it because he's on the top power play. I just, on the road in the small total, I just don't know if I'd full stack anything. If I was 20 maxing, I'd probably have a Norris Kachuk Chabot 3-man somewhere, but that's probably about it.
Yeah, it's just the problem is they're coming in at a spot where there are some other good lines in that price range. Like maybe not in great spots, but it's not like Ottawa's in necessarily a great spot here. Like Philly 1 coming in at the same price, Vancouver 1 coming in at the same price, Tampa 2 coming in, a little bit cheaper. Like there are a lot of good lines coming at that price. And Kachuk and Sanford, in their sample together this year, it's not a massive sample, but it's almost 100 minutes, I believe. 49 shot attempts for, 65 against, 43% shot share, and they're only controlling 36% of the scoring chances when they're on the ice together. Sanford's he just doesn't belong on the top line. Like, I'm sorry. I think when you're going into Florida, a legit cup contender, that quality player on the top line is enough to just get that line run over. So I like Florida 1 here tonight. It's just, I don't want to pay like 4,800 or 5,000 or whatever it is for Marchment. He's running really, really, really hot. I think I'd rather almost just make some sort of Florida power play stack and, Florida 2 plus Barkov, take out Bennett, add in Barkov, take out Duclair, add in Barkov, something like that. Florida 2 plus Barkov is basically where I'm looking at in this game. On the blue line, Gustav Forsling, he's been playing 20 plus minutes fairly regularly of late. Reasonable price at 3,400, don't mind him. But of course, we have our boy Ratko Gudas, 2,600, very, very cheap. Like those two guys. Anybody on the Ottawa side catch your fancy maybe for some shot blocks?
Maybe Nikita Zaitsev. Probably about it. Like on the Florida side, let me just see here. Like I kind of like Uyghur at 5,300, but the problem is, like, we'll get to the Colorado game later. Devin Tays is $400 less than Mackenzie Uyghur, and they're the same guy. So I'd rather just play. They're not the same guy, but like
same upside.
Same upside. Like Uyghur Ekblad is essentially Makar Tays. You know what I mean? I'll just go to the cheaper guy. So if you want to correlate with Ekblad, that's fine. Or I'm dumping down to Gustav Forsling.
All right. Let's get to this next game. Minnesota 3.6 implied goal total. Going to Philly, the Flyers have a 2.6 implied goal total. There were rumblings that Matt Dumba and Jordan Greenway might return for Minnesota tonight. Doesn't look like that's going to be the case just yet. So Brandon Duhaime is expected to stay on the third line for the Wild. I don't see any other significant line changes. That is a massive, massive total for Minnesota on the road. And we just talked about the other day how Philly has improved defensively over, their last 20 games or so, basically since they fired Alain Vigneault. I don't know. We do like the Minnesota Wild a lot here at Awesemo.com, but there's just something kind of nagging in the back of my head that maybe this Philly team is a little bit better than they're getting credit for. What do you think?
Yeah, that. And yeah, like the price on Minnesota one is nice, 17,000 on DraftKings. The thing is, like, there's other mispriced lines at home that are in equally or much better spots coming in with positive leverage. They're like Minnesota one's coming in pretty much at their top 2 stack, which is fine. But like, I don't know, like Hartman, Kaprizov, Zuccarello, they've fallen off the past 6 weeks. You look at their home road splits, they play worse on the road. Granted, this is a good spot, but I don't know. Last night I was like, oh yeah, Minnesota. Last night I was like, oh, Minnesota one night because they're super cheap. But then I didn't look at any other prices until this morning. I was like, well, that's canceled because there's other lines that like I'd rather play. If you want to get there, that's fine. Hartman being off the power play units altogether kind of sucks too. If he was on the top power play unit, then yeah, maybe. I think, like, again, like, I might just go to that second line or whatever you want to call it, Fiala, Gaudreau, Boldy line. They've been playing great. you want to one-off Joe Eriksson, I think that's fine. Like Minnesota 1 is fine. Like if I was 20 maxing, they'd definitely be in my mix. But in 1 to 3, it's just hard to get there when you have the Florida Panthers at lower ownership. You have Calgary in an unbelievable spot. You have Colorado in an unbelievable spot. You have Edmonton at the Blackhawks, which is going to be an absolute festival for DFS purposes. You know what I mean? So like, if Minnesota 1 was coming in at like 4 or 5%, then yeah, I'd be like, yeah, they're definitely in consideration for me in 1 to 3. I just don't know if I'm going to get there, just because there's just unbelievable spots tonight, and you got to cut somebody. So if they were in the 20 max, they'd be in my mix. But for me, 1 to 3, I'm probably going to be out on them. But I do like to play. On the Flyer side, I like the Flyers top line. They're fully correlated. Minnesota having issues on the penalty kill. They take a bunch of penalties. That top line's been falling off. They don't play great on the road. So you're going to get a top Flyers line, fully correlated, not very expensive, under 15K to full stack at 3.5%. If I was 20 maxing, they would be in my mix. I don't know how heavily they would be, but I would easily get over the field. 2 of 20 will get you 3x to field. So I'm in on the Flyers top line. That's really about it on the Flyers side. And I'm fine with a bunch of the wild stuff. It just seems more MME worthy to me.
Yeah, this is where I am with Minnesota. Is we have them with a fair bit of ownership here tonight. Minnesota 1 plus Minnesota 2 plus Minnesota 3. We have a 26% combined ownership. That means 1 out of 4 lines, or 1 out of 4 contest entries tonight, let's say, are going to have some sort of Minnesota stack in them, and it's a 9-game slate. Like, that feels like a lot, considering we have Colorado in Arizona, considering we have Calgary at home to Montreal, considering we have Edmonton in Chicago, considering we have Florida at home to Ottawa. Like, I think if I were to play Minnesota, I would just play the top line. That's kind of where I'm approaching here. Philly changed up their matching in their last game and started sending out the second line a bit. I don't think it matters for Philly's perspective, because the Minnesota first and second lines are basically the same line now, the same line these days. It's just Philly's second line has been pretty high event. And, if you're going to give Minnesota 1 kind of a track meet, I like their chances to score. So I made my lineups before the show. I'm probably going to have to make them again because I really didn't like them. Minnesota 1 was in my mix. I didn't get to any. We'll see if I get to any after the show, but that's the stack that I would go for 1, because I think they're going to be in a high paced matchup. And 2, the Flyers penalty kill is bad, like just real bad, like bottom 6 in the NHL over the last 6 weeks. So I think Minnesota can take advantage of the power play a little bit, maybe a high paced matchup as well. So if I was playing Minnesota, it would be right to Minnesota 1, add in some Matt Boldy for some power play stuff if you want. On the Philly side, I agree with you. It's that top line. They're playing 20 minutes a game of late. Their last 100 minutes, 30 scoring chances for, 20 against per 60 minutes. That's a 3-2 advantage in scoring chances when they're on the ice. They've been playing well. So, yeah, both top lines for me in this game. Minnesota, it depends how much you want. If Philly won, they're coming in pretty much right on their top 2 percentage, and they're a very reasonable price. So yeah, I do like Philly 1 here, Minnesota 1 as well. On the blue line, there's just not a lot of guys I like on the Minnesota side. I was kind of hoping we get 2,500 Matt Dumba, but it doesn't look like we're going to get that. I always play Justin Braun from Philly when I think there might be a lot of shots coming against him, because he's a shot blocking guy. So don't mind Justin Braun here tonight, but that might be about it. What do you think?
Yeah, like Spurgeon's okay if you're correlating into the power play, 4,400. I guess like Mikey O really gave him a boost to start his career. I don't know if you want to factor that into your narratives, but like Mikey O was basically like, yo, Wild, you need to call up Spurgeon. And that's kind of the story. There's an article about it today. Jonas Berdine under 4K, I think is fine as a one-off, but I'm not running in, to play any of these guys.
Yeah, I agree. What I am running to do is to sign up for our Awesemo Plus tools. Get access to all the great Awesemo Plus tools and content for nearly every DFS sport out there. with an Awesemo Plus weekly pass for $29.95. This includes full access to all the premium content and tools on Awesemo.com, including our player projections, our ownership projections, our top stacks, our lineup builder, and a whole lot more. Of course, if you're only looking to play NHL DFS, then you can sign up for one of our Awesemo Plus NHL packages for as low as $3.95 a week. Please note that Fantasy Cruncher is an add-on and can be easily added on to any of these packages at checkout, but it is not included in our base packages. However, it is a very valuable addition to your DFS arsenal for anyone looking to multi-enter contests. Stop guessing, start winning, join Awesemo Plus today. All right, let's get to this next game. It's a very interesting game from my perspective. Carolina, 3.2 implied goal total. Going into Washington, the Caps have a 2.8 implied goal total. The big news here is Washington looks like they're going to get Anthony Mantha back. It's not officially official, but they had two players go on the injured reserve. They took him off the injured reserve, and he's been practicing on the second line for the last couple practices. So we're expecting Anthony Mantha back on the second line for Washington alongside Nicholas Backstrom and TJ Oshie. Mantha has played top power play at times this year. I don't think they push him right to the top power play in his first game. So I suspect he's going to be on the second power play unit with the top unit staying the same. I say this is an interesting game because that Carolina top line has A, been great, B, has almost no projected ownership here tonight. This is a fascinating matchup. What do you think, Josh?
Yeah. Normally, the past few slates, Carolina's been chalk. Now that they're super expensive, no one's going to own them. Capitals are a pretty good defensive team, but like that line is really, really good. That it's what's the ownership is what's drawing me there. I think like if I was going to pay up for Carolina, I'd do it when they're very low owned and they've burned a couple people recently. So like I'm in on Carolina one just from a pure ownership standpoint. I'm not in love with the matchup. But if I can get that top line at 2%, I think I'd take it. On the Capital side, that second line is interesting to me. I will have to wait and see how Mantha plays. You know, it's going to take him a little while to get his legs on the rim, get into game shape, whatever. But 3,400 on that line, that's already cheap. Like Backstrom 4K, Oshie 3,900. Like they're in the 11s to full stack. And they're getting no ownership. I think you can take a chance on them, especially in MME. Carolina does have a very good penalty kill, but they take a bunch of penalties. So I don't know. It seems like an interesting filler for me, a Caps second line. You want to go to that Caps top line, that's fine. You know, they're getting no ownership as well. It is a 2.8 total at home. I think this is just a tough matchup for both sides. And that's what's keeping the ownership down. It is a 6 total, and there are some massive totals on the slate, so that's probably aiding in that too. I honestly, if I was 20 to 150 maxing, I'd have a lot on both sides. Like, no, I'm not going to go crazy, but getting 10% of the line here is going to give you like 5x the field. I think I'd be over the field for sure in this game.
I really want to talk about Carolina one because like Washington has been a pretty good defensive team for most of the season. But their defense has fallen off over the, after Christmas. There have been numerous articles about how their defensemen are really struggling. Their expected goals against per 60 minutes over the last 6 weeks is worse than Chicago's at 5-on-5. Their actual goals against is basically right in the middle of the league, just slightly ahead of Vancouver's. Like, it's not the same team this was in November. And that's kind of what's drawing me to Carolina one here is that there's no Carolina ownership. That Carolina top line is just, generating at will over 70 shot attempts and over 37 scoring chances per 60 minutes. I'm going to have some in my 20 max. It's just a matter of how much I'm going to get. I agree with you. You probably only need like 10%. I'm probably going to end up with more than that. But I really do like Carolina one just as a leverage play here tonight. And I think, Washington's having goalie issues as it is. Zach Fucale got called up. Vitek Vanacek expected to start. This is his third game in 5 days coming off an injury with Ilya Samsonov injured. Like, I think there are definitely ways that Carolina goes in and just kind of lays a beat down here tonight. So I'm not saying single entry 3 max. I think you're fine to pass on them in your 20. Once you get to 20 lineups or more, I think you really need to start considering Carolina 1. I agree with you on Washington 2. I am using them as a filler here tonight. On the blue line, 24 minutes a game plus for Pesce and Slavin since Tony DeAngelo got injured. Slavin obviously running the top power play unit. Pesce under 4K. As long as he's under 4K on DraftKings, that's when I start to get interested in him. So I don't mind him at that price. I'm going to be honest, though, unless I'm correlating, this isn't a spot where I'm looking for my defenseman. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Pesce one-off is fine. Other than that, correlating or move on to the next one.
All right, well, let's move on to the next one then. We have the Vancouver Canucks with a 2.7 implied goal total. They're going into New York to face the Islanders. The Islanders have a 2.8 implied goal total. Still no Matt Barzal here for New York. I mean, who would even know? Like, I don't even do the beat writers update anything that happens with that team anymore. Anyways, that's just frustration on my part. Anders Lee, Brock Nelson, Anthony Beauvillier expected to be the top line. Nils Hoglander, they thought he might be healthy scratch, but it looks like he's going to stay on the second line with Elias Pettersson for Vancouver. I'm going to say this is probably the game where I'm going to be playing some goalies for sure. I don't know about skaters. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm on the same boat. I think the Islanders have one beat writer, Arthur Staple, and he still uses owls or ravens to communicate mail. So who knows? They're way out.
It's the Ravens from Game of Thrones. They can get anywhere in about 20 minutes.
Yeah, but the Islanders stadium is halfway to Portugal. Might as well just keep going at that point. It's way down the island. Anyway, I don't know. I don't like much from this game. If anything, I'd probably just play the line Tanner Pearson's on, just because Tanner Pearson stabilizes any line he's on. Good at everything, not great at anything. Or good at everything, not great at anything. JT Miller, Besser, they're coming in under 1%. So I think, if I had to play a line in the Canucks, it'd be them. On the Islanders side, if I had to play a line, it'd probably be, I don't even know. I see that top line, Lee, Nelson, Beauvillier coming in at 7%. I'm not interested in that line, despite how cheap it is with that ownership. I just have I've had an issue playing Islanders all year. They've been good, they've been horrible, they've been okay. They're roller coaster. And on this slate, there's plenty of other spots that I'd rather just play. So I don't want to force in Islanders just because they're playing the Canucks. I guess you could do a JG Pajot, Kyle Palmieri 2-man at 5,400. If you need to get in a power play stack, I think that's fine. JG Pajot on the top power play, 2,700. Kyle Palmieri, 2,700. They've been pretty good together, so I'm fine with that. So, but really, this, when I was taking my notes, the first two goalies I wrote down were Sorokin and Demko. So there you go.
It kind of gives you an indication of what we think of the haters here. Here's the thing: is that top line for Vancouver has been pretty good this year. The Pearson Miller Besser line has actually been very good for Vancouver. Since Christmas, 54% of the shot share, 56% of the expected goal share in about 75 minutes played. And, the Islanders do have some higher paced lines at times. Brock Nelson and Anthony Beauvillier in their time together this year, about 65 scoring chances for and against when they're on the ice. That's very high pace for generating scoring chances or allowing them. It's just, I don't know how that matchups are going to work out in this game. And
I have no idea.
And here's the other thing is Vancouver is one of 5 teams in the league that get roughly 25% of their goals or more from the power play. And the Islanders are the least penalized team in hockey since Christmas. And it's, not even close. They just don't take penalties. So you have a Vancouver team that really relies on the power play going into New York to face an Islanders team that just doesn't give up penalties. Yeah. I mean, I think the Vancouver top line would be where I would go. Pearson, Miller, Besser. I think that's their best line, but that's not a single entry. It's not a 3 max line. I don't even know if I'll get there in 20 max. That would definitely be more for people playing 50, 100, 150 or something like that. Same thing on the Islanders side. I agree with you. If you wanted, 2-man or some cheap 2-man from the Islanders second line from the Pajot Palmieri line, just because they are so cheap, no problems there. It's just not a place where I'm saying, I'm focusing here to get some stacks in. If they find their way in, they find their way in. It's just not a focus for me, especially where Anders Lee on the top line just really hasn't had a great season. So like, I'm not sure if I want to, take line mates along the ride with him, especially where they're coming in at reasonable ownership, like 7%. It's not extreme, but that feels kind of high for what is a bad team and a low total and, all that stuff. So out on the Islanders, might be in on Vancouver with a lot of Vancouver top line with a lot of lineups, but I'm not playing them in my 20 maxes. I will say that outright. On the blue line, Adam Pelech, he hasn't really had a great season fantasy wise, but he's starting to pick up the peripherals a little bit of late. Super cheap. Don't mind him. Noah Dobson, now that his price is at 5,200, I find that a lot more reasonable for what he can do than, 6K plus. Don't mind Noah Dobson here either. Probably nothing for me from the Vancouver side. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm probably out on the Vancouver Canucks side. Pelech or Mayfield for me, if punting, Dobson if correlating. You could one off if you have $5,200 left. I think that's fine. The way I build, I generally don't have $5,200 left for a one-off defenseman, but if you do, I don't mind him at all.
Yep, I agree with that. We talked about Yahoo a little bit earlier in the show, and we have partnered with Yahoo Fantasy this NHL season to bring you some great offers. Check out our exclusive limited time offer, which gets you 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. To qualify, you need to be new to Yahoo. Sign up for an account via the link below, deposit and play. That's it. Yahoo will send us your name after you've played in your first paid contest, and we will reach out via email with your coupon. If you'd like to speed up the process of getting access, email support@awesemo.com, and we'll get you set up right away. You can also claim a free $10 of site credit by clicking the link in the video description below, and that can be used to enter any Yahoo contest, including tonight's $5,000 NHL Baller. Make sure to use our DFS tools and projections designed specifically for Yahoo to give yourself the best shot at winning big. All right, let's get to one of the main events of the evening. Edmonton, 3.3 implied goal total. They're going into Chicago. The Blackhawks have a 2.7 implied goal total. Chicago got a lot of bodies back. Jonathan Taves back in the lineup on the second line. Tyler Johnson back in the lineup on the second line. Calvin DeHaan back in the lineup on the top pair. I even think they got like a spare back. So like they got 4 guys back off the IR today. So Chicago ostensibly should be a little bit stronger than they have been. On the Edmonton side, it looks like they're probably going to go 11-7 here again. That means jumbled lines at times, but it means a lot of ice time for the top guys. It's 4-6 on the road for Edmonton. Now, once we get to 4-6 on the road, I start to get a little bit nervous. At the same time, this Chicago Blackhawks team has a very bad penalty kill. I think this is a fascinating game, honestly, from both sides. What do you think?
Yeah, I like both sides of this game. And I think I like
here we go.
Blackhawks side more.
Oh, God. He said it. All right, let's go. I want to hear this.
Because, the Blackhawks are always overowned. For whatever reason. They always are. Not tonight, though. Patrick Kane coming in at 9%, Dylan Strome 6%, DeBrincat 3%. You know what I mean? Edmonton's penalty kill is bad, just like the Hawks. And you were dropping some knowledge with a K on us. I'll let you talk about it, but the Hawks essentially get there via power play. So I think if I'm going to do anything tonight, it'd be some sort of power play stack from the Hawks side, like Strome, Kane, DeBrincat, Kane, DeBrincat, Seth Jones, like Tyler Johnson on the top power play unit is giving me a migraine, but he's min-price. I think I'll stick to some kind of Strome, Kane, DeBrincat, or Strome, as long as I get Kane and or DeBrincat with Seth Jones, I'm fine with any sort of power play stack there. On the Edmonton side, my dogs just went to sleep. I don't know what happened there. They had enough of the Leafs, and the Leafs put them to sleep, put me to sleep too. But on the Oilers side, if they're going to go 11-7, is this going to be how I do anything with the Oilers? McDavid and or Draisaitl and build around him with Hyman, Kane. If you need the salary relief, Fogle or Yamamoto is fine. But those big four are going to be my focal point.
Yeah, I was talking about penalty kill problems for both the Blackhawks and the Oilers so far this year. Now, I will say it seems like both these teams got rid of their coaches, right? And both teams improved afterwards. And I think that's one thing to mention with Chicago is like they're basically middle of the pack defensively by both expected goals against and actual goals against at 5-on-5 since the start of December. After they fired Jeremy Colleton, like we're talking about 30 games now. They're not horrific defensively. It's just the penalty kill where they really, really struggle. Bottom 10 penalty kill by expected goals against over the last 6 weeks. Bottom 5 by actual goals against over the last 6 weeks. We know how good the Edmonton power play can be. I think Edmonton power play stacking is just fine. If people are worried about Edmonton playing 4 and 6 and want to fade him for that reason, like I kind of get it. Like, I don't think this is a cupcake. Like Chicago falls into that Philadelphia bucket for me, where I think they're a better team now than people remember them being from like 2 months ago. It's just the penalty kill really lets them down. That's kind of the problem. So I think if Chicago fails here tonight defensively, it'll be through the penalty kill, and that's why I like the Oilers power play. Conversely, Edmonton also in the bottom 5 by goals against on the penalty kill over the last 6 weeks because their goaltending has just been horrific. Now, Mikko Koskinen has looked good at times. They are starting to ride him because it's Mike Smith or him now. But I think if you're going to go on either like for either side, it's going to be power play stacking or using the power play guys somehow. So I do like both. I think I would lean Edmonton here. They are coming in with reasonably high ownership. I don't think a power play stack will be anywhere as close to Duke, so I wouldn't be worried about that. I do like the Edmonton power play here. I agree with you on the Chicago power play as well. If you want to get either one of those in, especially Chicago, like you said, coming with reasonable ownership, absolutely just fine to me. On the blue line, honestly, Tyson Barrie's getting more minutes and it's making me mad. Like he's starting to play more than like Evan Bouchard. He's playing more than Duncan Keith. Like he's getting to a point where, you have to think about him because he's not, Keith Yandel playing 13 minutes a night, primarily just power play one time. He's actually getting more minutes now. I'm not saying I'm not playing. I'd rather not. I think Darnell Nurse is still the go-to guy for Edmonton. On the Chicago side, if you wanted to throw in some Calvin DeHaan for shot blocks, I think that's okay. But honestly, I think I'd rather just go all the way up to Seth Jones and see if he can have a game-breaking night here. So I think it's a too expensive defenseman. What do you say?
Yep, Nurse and Jones for me. Like, if you want to parlay Barrie, that's fine. Like he's just not a good hockey player, but for DFS purposes, he's on the top power play and he gets minutes. So for DFS, it's fine.
Yeah, he hasn't been the guy that he was last year, but like 18 minutes, 19 minutes, 23 minutes, 19 minutes, 17 and a half. Like he is starting to play more. He just only has 1 3-point game on the season, which just feels crazy considering, the role he plays on that team. Let's get to this next game. This one is a dandy. Montreal 2.1 implied goal total going into Calgary. The Flames have a 4.0 implied goal total. We are going to see some heavy Calgary ownership here tonight. Montreal is coming off a game where they gave up 8 against the Jets. We talked about it. Montreal looks much better offensively under Martin St. Louis, but defensively, whether 5-on-5 or on the penalty kill, they still have a lot of work to do. Lots of people are going to love the Flames here tonight. Josh, what do you say?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really blame Martin St. Louis for he doesn't have much to work with defensively right now.
Oh.
And so, that's on Jeff Gorton, but that's for another time. If you enjoy large homes on Narrative Street, we have Toffoli playing Montreal. If you remember when he was on Montreal and they went back to Vancouver, he absolutely lit them up like a Christmas tree. So take that BVP and jam it in your analysis. But yeah, I'm in on Calgary 1. I like Calgary power play. You want to include Toffoli. He's 3,800. He's probably going to be pretty high owned. But if you full power play stack and include Wasmith Anderson, I think you can get that 5 at pretty low ownership. He is 4,500. Listen, the top line is going to be heavily owned for once. Like, they've been under owned for the past few weeks, but tonight they're going to be pretty heavily owned, and for good reason. You saw what happened in Montreal. Like, they went down 4-0. They came all the way back because they can score. Like, let's not get it twisted. They're a bad team, but they can score with that top line. And then they just, they're like, yeah, we're done playing defense. And they lost. But, like, I'm in on Calgary 1, Calgary power play. You want to go to that second line for a filler, I think that's fine. But for me, I want to get as much power play correlation as possible. So I'm in on the top line, top power play. On the Montreal side, this is just a really, really tough matchup for that top line. That being said, like, if you're 20 maxing, having 1 of 20 is fine. And, getting over the field on Montreal 1 tonight is going to be pretty easy. And I still think having a little bit over the field on a fully correlated line is fine. Like, they've been really good. They played heavy minutes. Josh Anderson's up on the top power play unit now, which gives them added correlation. So Marty St. Louis, pushes them as far as they can go, and they're getting over 20 minutes a night. So I say, have a little bit over the field in MMA.
Yeah, I'm not going to go too deep into Montreal. I'm not playing them here tonight. Calgary's arguably, a top 3 defensive team in hockey. It's not like the Habs are coming in like super, super cheap for a top line. And, I talked about the Vancouver top line going into the Islanders. I would honestly rather play them. And we talked about the Philly top line at home on DK. They're less than $1,000 more expensive. I'd rather play them. So that's just where I am with Montreal. On the Calgary side, I agree with you. Top line, great spot, et cetera, et cetera. Here's my issue. They're starting to play them a little bit less. They're doing what, the cup contending teams are doing and kind of trying to save their top guys a little bit. Backlund and Mangiapane have been playing basically as much as Matthew Tkachuk over the last 6 or 7 games. Gaudreau and Lindholm tend to play more. Those guys do play like 18, 19 minutes. But like, if that full line's not going to be out for 18, 19 minutes, they're going to be 20% owned or whatever. I see a reason for moving on. I just, Calgary 1, they're going to be heavily considered for me. I think the way I'm building tonight, I'll have a lot more Calgary 2, just because they're one of the fillers that I do like here tonight. Like I said, they're getting a little bit more ice time. They're coming in very much over leveraged, but I think it's not a big concern for me because I think there are other under leveraged spots that I can use across the slate that will get me a little bit different. So Calgary, the entire top 6 is fine. Yeah.
I'm just saying, adding on to your point about the minutes concern, this is the beginning of 5 and 8 for them. So the coach might just be like, especially if they get out to a lead, you could see like that top line playing 16, 17 minutes tonight.
Yeah, I agree. I do agree with you about Tyler Toffoli. He averaged over 4 shots per game against Vancouver last year. He averaged under 3.5 shots per game against every other team. So, like, yeah, maybe he'll be a little bit motivated here.
Yeah, he's like Michael Jordan, and I took that personally. And he just lights him up.
Yeah. Maybe he will do well. I mean, he's in a good spot regardless. He doesn't need the revenge narrative to be rostered here tonight. On the blue line, man, Calgary's starting to play Oliver Shillington a lot less, and that's really hurting his fantasy value because he's a peripherals guy, so getting less ice time really hurts. Chris Tanev getting more ice time, 3,200, but 3,200 for blocks. I think I'd rather just pay 3,800 for Noah Hanifin. Nothing for Montreal. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm fine with Hanifin. I think I might actually be using Rasmus Anderson tonight if I go the Flames are out, just because 4,500 is fine, and he's he's on the top power play. It's not like he's 5,800 like he's been.
Yep. Here at Awesemo, we love to celebrate subscriber success, like Josh thinking on Saturday afternoon. And we do that through the Awesemo Hall of Fame. If you'd like to get in the Awesemo Hall of Fame, this is how you do it. You just download the Awesemo avatar from awesemo.com/avatar. You place in the top 3 of a contest with at least 5,000 contestants. You send that screenshot into the Awesemo Hoff account on Twitter. And if you do all that, you can win a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. Lou Elf Mania taking down first place NBA single entry, $1,000 off just a $5 entry. Congrats there. Terpter Man taking down first place in the NBA Daily Dollar single entry as well for $300. Nice hit there. Tio Deck, we've talked about him chopping that first in NBA on Sunday over on FanDuel. Nice job by him. Terry FLA boy, Terry Dez 169 taking down second in the NBA, 20K to first. You also see CN Duque 21 taking down second place for $250. And of course, I mentioned earlier, Yellowbird Marketing, a guy that you and I both talk to from time to time on Twitter, taking down second place in the Daily Dollar in NHL last night. Lots of winners. And don't forget, we added Odd Shopper NHL props to our Odd Shopper site. So if you want to play some NHL props, head on over to oddshopper.com. Check out what we have for NHL props. Coming up after us, it's Locks Before Lock at 4:30 Eastern, and then your NBA double dose of the deeper dive and Live Before Lock after that. All right, 5 minutes left, Josh. Couple games to get through real quick. Imagine this one won't take long. Colorado going into Arizona. Colorado 4.3 implied goal total. Arizona 2.2 implied goal total. You know how Arizona was playing a little bit better after Christmas? Well, that fell off real fast. They're over 3 expected goals against per 60 minutes at 5-on-5 over the last 6 weeks. One of 2 teams to be at the bottom of the league. In that regard, PK has gotten a little bit better, but still not great. Goaltending still hasn't looked very good. I'm going to say right off the bat, there's nothing I really want to play from the Arizona side, nothing as far as a stack goes, at least. On the Colorado side, I'm not a fan of Alex Newhook. I'm really not. I think for me, for Colorado, it would be top line or top power play or bust. I want to get as many minutes as I can, and I think it would be through that top line. What do you think?
Yep, I'm in on the top line or the power play. Like, I think if you want a 2-man Kadri or Landeskog, that's fine, but like, I'd rather just go Mikko Rantanen, Nathan McKinnon, and add on a Landeskog if you want to leave off Burakovsky. If you want to leave him on, I think that's fine. He's 4,100, plays on the top line. You can either go top line, you can go second line. I much prefer the top line, or add in some power play stuff. I'm out on the Coyotes, except for maybe Vladislav Kolyachanov. Not really. I just wanted to try to butcher that name. I like that name is so ridiculous. I watched a couple of Yotes games. This dude just shoots the puck wherever he's at. So maybe for min price, not awful, but he is on the third pair, so maybe not.
Maybe not. Like I said, not a big fan of Alex Newhook. I am, for his future. I just don't think he's a second liner right now in the NHL. But 2,500, he's min price on DK. It's fine, but it's Colorado 1 for me in that game. The Arizona top line is probably going to see a fair bit of that matchup, and the Arizona top line's been under 40% scoring chance share of late. So over the last 100 minutes, I should say. So yeah, Colorado 1 for me. Colorado power play, whatever you want to do. On the blue line, Dyson Mayo, I think makes sense if you're looking for some shot blocks from Arizona. Shane Gostisbehere 4,200 is a little bit interesting to me. But like you said, Devin Taves 4,900 feels like he's the guy to play at least over on DraftKings. What do you think?
Yeah, if you like, it's really expensive to power play stack the apps, and if you can't get to McCarr, I think Taves is fine just because he's 4,900, plays a ton of 5-on-5 minutes with that top line, so I'm fine with either of those guys. Sam Girard, I guess, would be the other guy. I just would prefer to get to Taves, but Girard is 3,300, and if you need the savings, I guess I'm okay with that as well.
Yep. All right. Final game. Boston 2.8 implied goal total. They're going into Vegas. The Vegas Golden Knights also have a 2.8 implied goal total. With all the injuries to Vegas's top line, they've been sending out the Marchessault Carlson line against the opposing top line. So they're going to get Marchand and DeBrusk here tonight, and Bergeron, obviously. Boston 1 coming in with very reasonable ownership, and the line isn't very expensive, 17,400. It's kind of a tough matchup against Vegas, but they're coming in with good leverage. I don't mind getting to some top line Boston here tonight. What do you think?
Yeah, it's kind of a similar, not like super similar, but they're similarly priced to Minnesota 1, and they're coming in way less owned. And this is a Vegas team who's missing, Stone and Pacioretty, which is a big loss for them offensively and defensively. Let's be honest. The thing is, like, Vegas too has been just ridiculous the past few weeks. Like, this has been running over teams. Like, they just decided to crank it up to a few years ago when William Karlsson was shooting like 9,000%, hitting every empty net possible, and just dominating defensively. They ran over Colorado 1. Like, that's not like hyperbole. Like, they just beat them into the ground that game. You know, they were in Vegas. Whatever. That being said, like, I'm still fine with Boston 1 just because they're coming in pretty low owned here. 3-4% for that line. Like, Jake DeBrusk up there has been very good. Whether you want to hate on DeBrusk or not, he's been very good up there. So I'm fine with Boston 1. Not sure I'm going to get there in 1 to 3, but in 20 max, I would definitely be interested. That second line's fine as well. I think I'd rather just go to the top line. On the Vegas side, I think nothing for me at 1 to 3, but I'd definitely be interested in the top 6, the more lineups I made. This is just a tough matchup in a 5.5 total on both sides with some massive stuff. Elsewhere, it's just hard to prioritize them.
Yep, I agree. All right, we got to get out of here. Like I said, Locks Before Lock coming up just before your NBA deeper dive. We have a show coming up tomorrow, but I got to ask you for your hat trick picks and your goalies. My hat trick pick, Evander Kane from Edmonton. Let's see if that power play can come through. And my goalies here tonight, Ilya Sorokin, Robin Leonard, and if you really want a long shot, Carter Hart. Who you got?
Yeah, I mean, the problem is, like, let's see. There's some really cheap goalies, but I just don't want to play. Like, Sorokin and Demko are fine for me. I think Vitek Vanacek is a little bit scary, but makes some sense in GPPs. Vasilevsky is interesting to me. My hat trick pick is going to be Tyler Toffoli.
Of course.
I was gonna say Patty Kane, honestly, but I didn't want to have one from both games. From the same game.
All right. Tyler Toffoli, Vander Kane are your hat trick picks. We got to get out of here. We will be back in about 23 hours. But until then, for producer Mike, for a single entry assassin, Mr. Joshua Harris, Michael Clifford saying good luck tonight, everybody.